Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to dive into some of the most fundamental building blocks of Python. And we'll see how these same simple tools can do everything from creating a personalized message for just one person to planning an entire party.
So let's kick things off with something you see literally every single day. You log into an app, a website, whatever, and it greets you by name. How does it actually do that? How does a piece of code know who you are and whip up a message that's made just for you?
And boom, you get a message just like this. Now, the welcome part, that's always the same. But the name, Nazem in this case, that's the dynamic bit. It changes for every single user. So to make that happen, our code needs a way to store that specific, changing piece of information.
And that brings us to our very first key concept, a variable. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is like a labeled box. We can pop some information inside this box, slap a label on it like user_name, and then anytime we need that data, we just call it by its name. Simple as that. Now here's the catch. What you put in that box really matters. The code has to know what kind of information it's dealing with. I mean, think about it. You can do math with numbers, but you can't do math with a name, right? And this is where the whole idea of data types becomes absolutely essential.
So when we're talking about numbers, Python is actually pretty specific. A whole number, like 9, that's called an integer. But the second you add a decimal point, like 9.9, it becomes a totally different type, a float. And this might seem like a small detail, but for a computer to do math accurately, this distinction is critical.
And what about text? Well, that's called a string. Pretty much anything you wrap in quotation marks, a name, a full sentence, even just a single letter, Python sees it all as a string of characters. And this is the data type we need to build that personalized welcome message. Okay, so we've got our name variable ready to go. Now let's look at the best, most powerful way to actually build our welcome message. And we're going to do that using something called f-strings. So you could do it this way, using a plus sign to kind of glue the two pieces of text together. And yeah, it works, but it can get really messy and hard to read, especially if you start adding more and more variables. It's just kind of clunky. But now, check out this much more elegant solution, the f-string. See that little f right before the quote? That's what turns it on. And now you can just drop your variable right inside the text, as long as you wrap it in these curly brackets. It's so much cleaner, it's more intuitive, and it's way easier to read. And it's really just a simple 3-step process. 1, you start your text with the letter F. 2, you write your message inside the quotes just like you always would. And 3, whenever you need a variable, you just pop it right into the text using those curly brackets. That's it. It's that straightforward. So personalized greetings are great, but what about bigger messages? How do we handle longer chunks of text, like a paragraph in an email, without our code turning into a complete and total mess? I'm sure you've seen this. If you try to cram a long paragraph onto a single line, your code just becomes this unreadable nightmare. It's tough to read, it's a pain to edit, and frankly, it just looks awful. We need a way to keep that nice formatting. And the solution is actually super simple. You just use triple quotes instead of single or double ones. This basically tells Python, hey, preserve all the line breaks, all the spacing, exactly as I type it. This is perfect for formatting things like emails, reports, or really any kind of long-form text. All right, now it's time to put everything together. We are going to use variables, numbers, and strings to solve a real-world problem, planning a party. So here's the scenario. We've got 12 faculty members, 4 admin staff, and 100 students invited, but we're expecting about 15 people won't be able to make it. And of course, the most important detail, everyone who shows up gets 250 grams of rabri. So let's figure out what we need. Okay, first step, how many people did we invite in total? Easy enough. We just add them all up. 12 plus 4 plus 100, that gives us 116 potential guests. Just some simple addition. Next up, we have to account for the people who aren't coming. So we take our grand total of 116 and subtract the 15 people we expect to be absent, and that leaves us with 101 actual attendees. That's the key number we'll be serving. And finally, the moment of truth. We calculate the total amount of food. We've got 101 people, and they each get 250 grams, so we just multiply those together. That gives us a grand total of 25,250 grams of rabri needed for this party. And here's our final plan, all laid out. The total we need is 25,250 grams.
Now, to make that number a little easier to work with, we can just divide it by 1,000 to get it into kilograms. So we need 25.25 kilograms. Boom! Party logistics are solved. And just like that, we've gone from the super simple concept of storing a name all the way to calculating the logistics for a whole event. We used variables to keep track of our guest counts, we used arithmetic for the math, and we could even use an F-string to print out a nice final report. So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that these basic tools are incredibly powerful. You can now build a simple calculator, a budget tracker, or even a personalized email template. The only limit, really, is your imagination. So, what problem will you solve first?